Less than a week after James Crumbley was found guilty of involuntary manslaughter, the families of the Oxford High School shooting are continuing their advocacy to hold the school district accountable and to create change in districts statewide. So with me now is Buck Myre. He's Tate's dad and part of the Families for Change group. Buck, thanks for being with me. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
You know, first off, let's start. Advocacy is so meaningful, but it must also be exhausting in these last couple of days.
Yeah, it's more than exhausting. We're not getting much help from our state government. Nobody seems to be really interested in kind of getting to the bottom of this and driving some accountability, and with that comes change. And there just doesn't seem to be any interest from our state government.
So it feels like you're kind of yelling into an echo chamber right now. Talk to me about creating this group, Families for Change. What were the conversations?
Well, really, not just us four families, but, the other 7 that were shot and the whole school that was terrorized, our whole community, we've just been looking for answers and kind of let's get an unedited version of that day. An unedited story, I should say, of that day, and pre-shooting, the shooting, and the response to the shooting. I think we can get better. At every level. We could have prevented the shooting. Then we could have responded better to the shooting. And nobody seems to be very interested in trying to make it better.
When you say that when you say that nobody's very interested, talk to me about these last couple of days. You and the rest of the families have really kind of come out publicly and said there needs to be accountability for the school. What does that look like to you specifically?
It's pretty simple. First of all, let's do an investigation, and let's see if Oxford schools did everything right, and there's nothing they could have done to prevent the shooting. I think that's the first step, and then we're going to get a lot of answers from there. We believe that if an investigation is done, that there is going to be much more that's uncovered. For example, the EOP, which is the Emergency Operating Plan, Oxford Schools took a grant, which is from us taxpayers, and they never implemented it. So, where's the money? Where's the money? Mm-hmm. And that's just one example.
We know that there cannot be criminal charges against the counselors. Prosecutor Karen McDonald has come out and said that. We know that there was a third-party investigation into the school district and what happened that day, and they came out with several places where the school district went wrong, but not everyone had to answer the questions. I think, namely, you're talking about the counselor and the dean of students in this case. We heard them testify in Jennifer and James Crumbley's trials. What went through your mind in hearing that testimony, and then where do you think that information should be going?
Well, their testimony was different than their deposition. So, I think their story changes every time they talk. So, I don't really. I don't know. It's so upsetting. I have a hard time really keeping my focus here and chatting with you about it because
it's okay. It's okay.
Yeah, it's just a complete cover up, and they're just devaluing kids' lives, and there's nobody. What's frustrating to me is our system continues to hit the easy button. And the easy button here is to point the finger at the gun. So all 3 of those family members, one of them is going to be spending life in jail, and the other 2 are going to be spending some time in jail. So what we've witnessed over the last 2.5 years is the system being able to hold the people accountable, and only point the finger at the gun. And the fact of the matter is, this tragedy could have been avoided, and the system won't allow us, the people, to hold them accountable in what they could have done better.
So, Buck, the investigation that you would like, you want that to come from whom, number one? And number two, what is the state law that you would like to see changed?
Well, I'd like it to come from the from the Attorney General, but she made a statement yesterday that she doesn't have jurisdiction to do that. Well, who does? She won't tell us who does, and nobody in state government has helped us out there who does have jurisdiction. They keep saying the school board has local control, but the school board is being snowballed by insurance attorneys.
Mm-hmm.
So they're all the school board is doing is just protecting their interest, which is money over the safety of our kids. So I don't know. In the law that we would like change, I don't know specifically what law it is, but
Mm-hmm.
when there's a mass shooting like this, the insurance attorney should not be able to come in and run the show. The insurance attorney was on site before we were even notified that our kids were murdered.
That is got to be something very difficult to swallow and to know. Talk to me a little bit about, you have appeals pending in federal court right now and civil cases. Can you explain where all of those are at right now against the district?
Yeah, everything's in appeals. Governmental immunity, the way it's written, is a tough beast to beat. It's the proximate cause. So, what our government's doing is pointing the finger at the shooter and the parents, and that's it. There's really nothing else to look at in their eyes.
Yeah, but you're starting the wider conversation that I'm sure is happening in districts around the state of, what if this happened in our district, and what if this happened to my child? What would I want to see happen, and what answers would I want to get?
Yeah, exactly. This could happen at any school district in Michigan or across the nation today, tomorrow, and nobody seems to be really interested in solving the problem and getting to the bottom of the why. And it's more than the gun. Our kids are not okay these days, and we need to put some checks and balances in place, and make sure. So, one thing that is interesting is, the extremist response to this says it's not the school's responsibility to raise your kids, and that's not what we're advocating for. That's not what we're advocating for. We're advocating for our schools to understand the industry of kids that they're in, and be able to service that and be able to react to that. I mean, think about it. This kid was in the counseling office, and he was at the top of the mountain in crisis. I mean, there's no arguing that. He shot the school up, right? So he was at the top of the mountain in crisis, and nobody was able to peel that onion back and figure it out and search that backpack. And there was plenty of evidence there to do that. The school knew he had access to a gun because of the message that Pam Fine had left with the mother.
Yep.
So they knew he had access to a gun. So they could have asked that question. And that also, maybe they didn't even need to ask that question. They could have just searched the backpack. They had his murder plan with the picture that he drew on his assignment. I mean,
Yeah.
they had a SABRE test, which was a kind of a mental health evaluation that was flaming red. Why didn't they have that information at their hands? You know, so I, here's the problem: is I'm not. We're not necessarily pointing fingers here, but 4 kids were murdered, seven others were shot, and the whole school was terrorized. And we act. Oxford schools acts like there's nothing more they could have done, and that's so far from the truth. We need to be better, and that's all we're asking for. Let's learn from this, and let's change. And they don't want to hear it.
Yeah. Talk to me a little bit about the organization that you started in Tate's Memory. When you talk about there's more than just the gun, it's mental health, and you're really starting for mentoring and connecting with students of where they are. How's that been going?
It's going great. One thing that Tate was an amazing kid, and he loved to serve, and every opportunity he had to make a difference with somebody, he did. And peer mentoring is powerful. Um, the data shows that if a child has a good mentor, their likelihood of committing any violence is low. The data shows it. So, um, that's all we want to do. We want to try to bring the community back. I think one thing that's really shifted these days is we're all focused on our differences, and we don't need to be focused on our differences. We can. That's what's great about the United States of America. We can all be different and coexist with each other. But for some reason, we don't we don't want to look after each other anymore. So I feel like with 42 strong, if we can get enough kids looking after each other, um, this kid that did the shooting, he didn't have one friend at Oxford,
Right.
and all it would have took is for him to have one friend
One friend at the school.
and
Yeah.
one friend at the school, and also all it would have took when you want to look at it from the administration point of view, all it would have took is for him to have one person that showed they cared about him. He didn't want to do this. He had "help me" written on his homework. It's like he didn't want to do this, but nobody showed any interest in wanting to engage with him. Or maybe I don't. Maybe that's the wrong way to put it. There wasn't anybody who made a connection with him, and that's another thing that maybe we could change. When we do these threat assessment protocols, maybe this we do it differently, and we do more one-on-one interventions with the kid, and you have 5 or 6 people asking the same questions in their own unique way, and maybe one of them make a connection, and then boom, this gets caught, and now Oxford High School's heroes because they stopped the shooting.
Yeah.
There's just so many different ways that we could look at this and make it better.
Let's look forward a little bit. We know that James and Jennifer are going to be sentenced on April 9th together. Unfortunately, that means that you and all the rest of the families have to come in again and tell your story and tell what has been happening in your life for the last 2.5 years and what you want to see. What do you want to see happening in this sentencing?
So, I've always been a big supporter of the system and of the greater good, right? And what we've witnessed here with these last 2 convictions is the people spoke, and that's all we ask for. Now the judge has got to do her thing and put the judgment down and see what that's going to be. All we can do is trust in that. And, I don't really like to spend a lot of time talking about the parents. I think, at the end of the day, we've been consumed with talking about the shooter and the parents, and we haven't been consumed with what the school could have done to prevent this. So I don't know. I don't really have much interest in really talking about the parents. Let's let the system speak and do its thing.
It's understandable. All right. Let me just end with this, I guess, Buck. What are your hopes when you end the day, and you've been doing a lot of media interviews, and this has been wave after wave of walking down a road that not many of us can understand, what do you hope to see in the next couple of years?
Well, number one, I hope our state government wakes up and does an investigation on this and looks at this with no blindfolds on and says, what can we do better? And then if that happens, then we're gonna see change. And I want to be part of that change. These families want to be part of that change. 42 Strong is part of that change. We need to find a way to stop these mass shootings because kids aren't doing good right now. So, and that's probably a combination of looking at some common sense gun legislation, which I've steered clear of because I'm a 2A supporter, and that's a wedge issue, and that brings out the extremists. But that I think that's something that needs to be talked about. That this isn't a party line issue. That's the number one killer of kids now, and I think we need to take a look at systemically what we could have done when you kind of walk down the path of the shooting and seeing what could we have done at the school to stop this. And then also, what could we have done after the shooting started to save lives? Because I think you can make a pretty good argument that 2 of the 4 lives could have been saved, with Hannah, who bled out, and Justin, who got shot in the bathroom. And that's not pointing fingers. That's just like, let's self-evaluate this and see what we could have done to prevent it and what we could have done to save lives. And then on the response, what could we have done to work with the families? Our families have been shut out in the most disrespectful way you could ever imagine. Ever.
Do you want to leave us with any lasting thoughts about Tate that you'd like to share?
We miss Tate. Like, I feel like our house is lifeless, and we're just having a hard time with this. And he was just an absolutely incredible kid, and he's missed by many. And we've got this permanent hole in our family, and we're just trying to figure out how to get to tomorrow every day and how to move forward. And I just hope that someday we can think of Tate and smile, but all we do is think of Tate and cry right now. And I know he's not really happy about that. But we're fighting and we're grinding and we're trying to find a way to move forward. And without him, it's really hard.
Your advocacy is part of the journey, and you know that there are so many people that love and respect your family. And thank you so much for the time today. We really appreciate it, Buck.
Thank you very much.
All righty, thanks for being with me.
Mm-hmm.
I can't thank you again, and this must be excruciating for you to continue to, because part of the advocacy is talking about it. So I'm so sorry, but I'm so appreciative of your time, and we wish nothing but the best for you and your family.
Thank you very much. We appreciate it.